Hello and welcome to the Common Creative Podcast. My name is Chris Meredith.
And my name's Paul Fairweather. And Chris and I are on a mission to open up the conversation about creativity in life and business through the lens of ideas, stories, and visual communication. And today's guest, Chris,
is Stephanie Hart, a personal friend and, in my view, a thoroughbred creative. She seems to exude creativity through every pore. Recently, she's become a ceramicist, but she's a performer, a watercolorist. She has a day job as a philanthropist at Taronga Zoo. And I was fascinated to find out from her what drives her creativity. And I think we learned that it's kind of in her DNA. She just can't not be creative.
I think so, Chris. I think the thing that I really took from Stephanie is that she has an enormous amount of energy and creative energy. And that despite permanent employment, she's managed to be very creative, done lots of things over many years, over many different fields. As you say, she recently became a potter or a ceramicist. But she's, taken the opportunity to take a year off, a sabbatical, to really hone. And all that's opened up is now she said she's doing so many different things. So it's really quite fascinating. Give a busy creative person a job, do more creativity. So I loved her energy. I loved the story. So it was fabulous. Let's say.
And I think when you're listening to the show, listen out for her reference to the word freedom and the freedom that her family life and her parents gave her. I think that sounds like a really important foundation stone for any creatives. It gives you the confidence to express yourself without worrying too much what the world thinks of you. Let's get it. Stephanie Hart, a huge welcome to the Common Creative Podcast.
Why, thank you, Chris Meredith.
Yes, Stephanie, great to meet you. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Now, Steph, we've known each other on and off for a long time. I think of you as a thoroughbred creative, but how would you describe yourself? And tell us about the journey that took you to the point of being the ceramicist, philanthropist, creative that you are today.
Well, I guess I was born and that's a very marvelously huge question, Chris, and with someone who has a brain like mine, it's going all over the place. So I think that it was something that I could never not do, was be creative. It was all around me. My dad was a mad inventor. We've got art in the family. I grew up around pots and chaos. My mum was an artist. My dad was, they had day jobs. So it was everywhere. It was fully infused. I didn't know that anyone didn't feel the way I did.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And more recently, you've obviously been a performer and still are a performer. I think you're going to the Edinburgh Festival. But the latest incarnation of your creativity is your ceramics. Tell us about your ceramics.
Oh, well, that was a very, very happy accident in a way. The performing is something that I always felt very driven to do. I grew up without a television because my dad did. That's a whole other thing. But as soon as I knew what performing was, the first thing I saw was a clown in the circus, and I was like, you can do that? I'll do that. And from then on, I was very, very wedded and driven to this whole idea of performing. The ceramics, then various things. I've always done it in different incarnations and ways, but life got in the way a little bit. So the ceramics my dad was a potter amongst other things in the evenings, taught it at TAFE, at Tumut TAFE, and it happened very organically, and then it became a much more controllable obsession because I had more autonomy and because it was a much calmer, and because it wasn't my greatest drive through my whole life. It wasn't this unfulfilled, because with
I was going to say, performing is an unfulfilled passion.
Well, you fulfill it in peaks and troughs. You'll do something and you'll have that absolute rush and high of being on the stage and doing your thing, and then it's always on to the next thing and what's happening next and what avenue. Yeah, and because. Yeah, so ceramics is much more organic and much more. It's an accidental, pure, organic love.
Why accidental, Sophie?
I remember my dad actually literally breaking his back, putting his pottery wheel into the boot of his car in his 70s and calling up to me on the balcony in Tumut, because I happened to be home at that time. Are you sure you'll never use this? And me saying, no, Dad, 2 kids inside. No, it's fine. Take it. And so he had so many things. His whole under the house was copper work, jewelry making, ceramic, everything. It was chaos. happy chaos. Anyway, so it was an accident because probably it was, yeah, I mean, it was one of those COVID things as well. I turned 50, I bought myself a wetsuit and started swimming. I've ditched the wetsuit, but I've kept swimming. I enrolled in a masterclass accidentally, thinking, because I can turn my hand to most things. It happened to fit my actual date of my 50th birthday. Took time off work. It was full and it was only for people who were masters. Had to pretend I knew what I was doing. So it was an accident because I never planned it. It was never my driving force. And then once I started, I was totally.
How did you start? How did it come about? Did you take that with
50th birthday to class, pretend, and then I stopped for a while because I had to go back to work. And then I enrolled. Oh, well, actually, it came about really one of my donors at Taronga when I visited her house to, drop off something, have a chat and a coffee. I said, "Who's the potter?" And she was 90 something. And she said, "Me." And I said, "Oh," anyway, we had a lovely look at all her pots. And I said, "My dad was a potter. I really want to go and do it." And she told me, I said, "Where do you do it?" And I have ended up, just through some strange roundabout, in the class that she potted in. I recently went to her funeral. She died at 97. I was I gave her, on her deathbed, I visited her a few times, when you're in that last stage and you can't actually talk or anything, but you can still hear and feel. And anyway, I put a pot under her house.
Oh, beautiful.
And I said, "Roma, I'm not sure what you can hear or feel, but, because I used to visit her with my pots when she was very old. And her little hand was moving around on the pot and I was describing it. And so anyway, so it was through work really and through Roma, and I ended up in the pottery class that she did, and in that same class I've been birthed.
For listeners who can't see Steph and me and Paul, I'm holding one of Steph's works in my hand right now, which I bought at a show she did at the weekend. And I love it. It's this beautiful, rich, earthy, organic, I think, kind of little bowl. There's no question that it's handcrafted and a little bit raw, I think you'd say.
Oh, yes, it's all very raw.
Steph, tell us about your process when you're creating heath, because I read the way you described it. Tell us more.
Okay, so I feel like creating ceramics is very much that we're just two bodies working together. I'm a physical living body and it's a blob of earth, and I do feel like we're working together. I never have a plan. Totally go in there and see where it takes me. I know that sounds absolutely shittily cliched and ridiculous, and it is, but it's very true. We form together. And so I imagined, like every person who goes to pottery, you sort of imagine yourself on the wheel, because that's what you see on the great blah, 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 blah. Anyway, my first pottery teacher, I think he hated people coming to his class, and a lot of people left that class and cried and all sorts of things. Yeah, so he was very anti-production pottery. He was South Korean, and I am fast and furious, and he made me force. I've had 3 teachers, and I wouldn't even call them teachers. I'd call them sort of like
Maybe mental.
ceramic philosophers.
Oh, okay.
I would say. And yeah. Anyway, so he made me slow down, much to my displeasure, but it was very good.
I'm thinking that I'm guessing is actually the attraction for you mentally. Unlike performing, where it's all about adrenaline and energy, surely working with earth forces you to be a bit more reflective. Is that true?
Yes, very much so. And you can see what you're creating and reflect on it, whereas performing, you're right in the middle of it. You're getting it from the audience and from that very moment, whereas creating a pot, you can, it's a much slower thing, though I am very fast in my class and people go, "What? You do?" So I'm still...
No, I'm asking you, Paul, I'm just sort of wanted to go back. You've been sort of talking about the creative process and comparing it to, you're performing on stage. Do you have a sense of what's driving you? You said you're lucky to have, your parents were creative and your father was this mad Hungarian inventor. I think you said in your notes that he never bought anything new. I was just rereading Stephanie Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, and she talks in there and she says, it doesn't matter whether you had creative parents or your parents were alcoholics, or it doesn't matter. We've all got this creative drive within us. Do you have a sense of what yours is? Do you, like that keeps on, you seem to be a serial creative.
Yes.
That's definitely true.
You give a creative person, a busy creative person a job, i.e. another
Yes.
hobby. Do you have a sense of where that comes from, or what it is?
No, it's like a very strong urge, and I can't help. You bring it to everything you do. So I accidentally ended up working at Taronga, and I was helping out a friend a couple of days a week. Working with our individual major philanthropists, and I always did it part-time because I had little kids, and then I was doing other stuff at the same time. But so there, my official job was to work with individual philanthropists on the conservation programs and, sort of ignite and inform and keep them connected with the wonderful, amazing conservation programs, different, species or programs that they support. But through that, because it is very personal and you build up relationships, I ended up, I've sang in the zoo band at our Silver Shovels Awards. I emceed our Friends of the Future Christmas lunches with, a little bit of sing-song in there and a lot of perhaps some almost stand-up comedy moments. I was the live auctioneer for bids at what were we doing for I can't even remember what the program, the wildlife hospital, and I sort of, I think I startled the staff as well as the guests when I ripped off my Taronga uniform and had some gold hot pants underneath and said, well, I've made an effort, now it's your turn. And my Silver Shovels Award that I got that year wasn't specifically for that, but it did get mentioned by the CEO that, that
I'm learning this. Taronga is not so much a zoo as a stage.
It sounds like a bit of a zoo. It sounds like a bit of a zoo to me.
I do say it's like a zoo sometimes, isn't it?
So let me ask you a question. I'm sure everyone listening has got in their mind, which is that for you, it sounds like it just comes naturally. You love being on stage performing. You love creating beautiful ceramics. It's just inside you. But normal people are terrified of this stuff. Yeah. So the idea of getting on stage and risking other people judging you or producing artworks or pots and other people say, oh, that's not very good. I've seen a better one in Big W. How do you deal with that?
How do I deal with it myself? Because you can still feel terrified yourself, even if you love it and thrive on it, you can still feel terrified, especially with performing because you can, no matter how much you love it, you can still deliver it. Shit, but a dud, no problems. And then, so for other people, so if I am ever someone else is about to do something, well, some people say to pretend you're someone else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So think of, and I might even do that if I'm doing something that's out of my particular comfort zone or region of natural ability, I might pretend I'm someone else that does fit that.
Can you tell us more about that? Because it strikes me that it's not something you might do occasionally. It sounds like something you do a lot. You talked about when you first did your ceramics, you had to pretend that you knew what you were talking about. And see, it sounds like it's a trademark. It's ability to be somebody different.
Yes, and it's really not necessarily a good thing.
Oh, come on. I'm Silly Mixed Doors with the great Stephanie Hart.
Yeah, no, it's, winging things in life. Because I guess it's the freedom of the household that I grew up in. But my brothers were very different to me. So, we all grew up in the same household and went different ways. But there is, and perhaps the fact that my dad did never buy anything new. Like, we loved going around the council cleanups. We lived in Tumut. So the council cleanups is Hungarian. So his sister was in Dover Heights. The council cleanups there, we'd go around and gather up chairs and fans and fix them. It was just never something that I questioned with holding back or considering things.
Does that mean that because you mentioned in the note to us that your family life and your I think you called him a mad Hungarian father, that gave you freedom, that gave you the chance to sort of learn your craft of pretending and creating and doing what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also Dad refused to have a television when we were young because he came out from Hungary. I think he studied engineering in Hungary, came out when he was quite young, spoke no English, got into Sydney Uni to do engineering. They were then looking, I think school counsellors were coming in. So they were looking for people to swap over into psychology. So he then did swapped over to psychology. Thought, oh, school holidays, all that stuff. So we didn't have a TV. We lived on a hill. There was a big workshop downstairs. I used to wake up, played with jars of pencils. It sounds very archaic. My mum made clothes. I think it was like Constable was one of our English ancestors. John. Wow. Yes. So on mum's side, there was art, and so sort of knew up that.
So, do you have a TV at your home? Because it's that I'm trying to work out if you thought your parents were miserable for not providing a TV, or whether you thought they were empowering you and they had a better alternative, which was Facebook.
Yeah, no, I was a bit cranky, but we just went and watched it at the neighbours. And then my mum, when my brother broke his arm, she told Dad she'd hired one when she'd actually bought him because he had to be on the couch for a while. And I think my dad also knew that he perhaps had a little bit of an addictive personality, and so we were limited to one show a week for when we first got it, and then it was on pretty much every night.
But that question, I'm guessing you do have a TV at your home these days. But does that mean we'd all be better off with a bit less technology?
Oh, I love technology. I don't know. Well, no, I don't think no. So, yeah, that was probably a bit too much emphasis on that, because I don't know if we had, I think I would have always been restless watching TV. I am anyway now. I love it.
Okay.
But I can only watch it once I've totally conked myself out for the day.
Have a sort of dry.
Yeah, 9:30 at night, lovely. 10:30 at night, pop it on. Let's watch it. Series or something. So, yeah.
I had a friend, and they didn't have a TV, as an adult friend. And their kids had four boys, and their grandma used to record all their shows all week, and they would go to grandma's for the weekend and literally spend 48 hours watching a week worth of television. And one of them ended up being a TV presenter. The parents were sort of trying to achieve in stopping them. But it's interesting, because I was just writing the other day about boredom, and boredom is seen as there's two aspects to it. One is if the skill is greater than the challenge, then we get bored, and it's seen in business as a bad thing. But boredom is something that, as kids, we all, were often bored, and we had no phone to reach for, and often, there was nothing on TV because it was free to air, midday show, whatever, so we had to make our own, we had to literally create our own phone. And I worry about that myself. I don't know, how are your kids placed? Are they, do they ever get bored? Did they ever get bored?
They do seem to spend a lot of time watching stuff, but I think they also both have a bit of a creative drive. And in fact, my daughter Maddie has become, so they used to watch YouTubers and all the rest of it, and she's actually become one. And she's much more strategic than I am. So I'm about to have a year's sabbatical from formal work and totally unleash the creative beast. And she's like, it's totally fine, Mum. It's great. It's fine. I know so many people who are creating, and that's all great, but you have to have the marketing and the plan and the theory behind it. You can't just, do it. You've got to have all the other stuff. And I'm okay. Wait till I'm doing my year off to tell me about it. I can't now, so she has used it as an industry. And people said when our kids grow up, they'll be doing jobs that don't exist. And that's totally happened in our family.
She's a bit of an influencer now, isn't she? She's got a big following. And
it's funny. I mean, the word influencer has negative connotations, but she's actually doing exactly what I was doing when I was younger, but she's creating her own content. I describe it to my mum with dementia as she's got a community radio show, but people can see her because she is online with, she has about, 200 people tune in every 4 afternoons a week, and then she gets the equivalent of ads. So she's doing stuff for Smith's Crisp or for that. Yeah. So she's got an agent. So it's almost like when I was a young actor doing the more traditional performing thing, you get your agent, you go and you audition for ads or for TV or whatever. So, but except it's a different format. So they approach so then they give her a brief. She writes the content. She sends that back to them. They approve it. She then does a rough. So it's
That's done by me. So similar.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your sabbatical, because if your creativity feels very spontaneous and very kind of in the moment, and if you take a year off, that gives you 12 months of emptying. No, how do you feel that? How do you choose where to go?
Look, so my my 17 years part-time at Taronga it's almost, look, it's, maybe, I sometimes think maybe I'm like that grapevine that's been stuck in the rocks and it's going to be a very intense flavour. That's my hope. So I already have over-committed. No, it's not how to fill the empty. I'm already doing way too much around what I'm meant to be doing. So it's actually giving that a bit of breathing space. And then I've already taken on more. So I'm already jewelry making and...
What I meant was, how do you structure it? How do you...
Yes.
Because you've kind of got too many options. So how are you going to choose, I'm going to go this way rather than that way?
Okay, so the problem I have is that I love making things and creating, but the reason I can do around other stuff. But the reason I'm giving myself a year is the whole performance thing that I never really got to properly do because I had kids. I moved overseas, I did a little, and I've done it, but I'm just giving it anyway. So I've got to give that space to be able to do it properly, but I'm doing jewelry making on Monday, acrylics and oils on Wednesday, ceramics on Thursday, watercolors on Friday. I did get a little bit scared because I'm not very good without having something to hang my hat on structure wise.
Yes.
Not organized. So that's why I've
a day per week for a specific project.
Yes.
And what
to start with.
For your 12 months out or 12 months into your sabbatical, we've done, do you have an idea about, is it going to end at some big show or big performance, or is it the process that matters to you?
Definitely in terms of performance, it's performances or making. So with performance, there are so many, so you can create shows. So I have a dear friend, we were at uni together and we've created a lot together. I was in Frumpus and I continue to be in Frumpus, which is an all-female absurdist comedy, clowning, accidental, feminist, very strange, wonderful, entertaining, girl power kind of theatre. And we do stuff. We've done probably 2 shows in the last couple of years. Okay. And then my best mate Lenny, who's a arts journalist, we did a show in Edinburgh together. We were going to do one this year. So there'll always be that sort of thing, and there'll always be alternative theatre. It's very much a comfort zone. But the thing that I haven't done, that I've sort of is my feeling that I need to do, is to go back down the agent road, which I had an agent and then I had to move to the UK. All that sort of...
Which means to become a bit more professional. If you've got an agent, that suggests the kind of...
Go for a bit of that more mainstream stuff. See, I don't think I'm actually more of a probably character. Once I missed the young heroine boat, it took the pressure off the timeline a bit. And I always said, I'll have to get back to acting before I can't remember the lines. So... So here we are.
But we'll keep them by our TVs. Maybe see you in our TV.
I'm interested, you have this, I don't know if you ever heard of Stefan Stagmeister. He's a New York-based graphic designer, and every 7 years he closes his office for a year and he sends all the clients away, fires all his staff, and goes and just speaks creative every 7 years. So he figured he'd, have 5 to 3 years of retirement, in his 35-year career.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, and again, back to Elizabeth Gilbert, she says, you don't have to give up your day job to be creative. And obviously you've been very creative, even though you've had a day job. I'm interested to know whether, what do you think is going to come afterwards? Do you think you're going to go back, or is this going to be a new day job?
Yeah, well, so I've given myself a year to fully let loose and see. I think if I go back, I actually really love the organisation. It was an absolute accidental love affair.
This is Taronga.
The conservation program is remarkable, and every program and every person that I work with, because I'm working with individuals, is bloody brilliant, and it's led me to all sorts of interesting things. So, but when I also have loved collecting, I think we collect each other, the slightly more extreme people that I've come across that are not necessarily the major philanthropists, but perhaps people have left a gift in their will, and a lot of those people, a relative percentage of them, don't necessarily have a lot of family, and you become a little bit like their family. So probably, how I go back I'll probably, in my fantasy land, I'll go back a little bit less, but I'll still be in there. And I think I've already offered to do live potting at our Zufari Gala event. I already offered to, so I'm not really fully letting go. I'm keeping the little creative bits and the relationships that I love. I won't be able to close the door on them.
There's a guest we're hoping to get. She paints live on stage. So,
yes.
So the art, the creation of the art is as much part of it as the art itself. So, like, what if we can see you live pottery on stage?
Yeah.
Maybe an elephant will be helping to carve the cat's nose.
Oh, look, the elephants are quite good painters. Yes, well, I have done live potting. It was a thing at Dirty Jane's in Bowral where they had art meets design, and they had live painters. And so there was one event, and then there was another one at their Canberra location. And I was like, oh, live art? Well, I could do live potting. And they were like, really? And I was like, absolutely. So I built the base so it was dry enough that I could then build. And it was fantastic because it was like performance art. Yes. And I was talking about, people were asking me about and I was surrounded by pots. Terrific. Yeah, no, it's a thing. I even did think, of one of my many thousands of ideas of a small business idea of, I can't remember, there was a good name for it, but, Steph, perhaps, no. Potty, Steph's potty parties that I'll come out and do a little pottery session at, who knows? Anyway, no, that.
I always thought that, if they ever, legalised marijuana, you could always do pot and
Absolutely. In COVID, I built this huge ball pot for one of my darling nieces who smokes quite a bit, and she said, "Oh, can I have that one? You've made me a big bong." So definitely.
How do you like people to react to either your performances or your ceramics? Because I'm hearing from you, it's a big release. It's kind of a force you can't keep in, which is great. But what do you want people to say about? How do you want it to impact all?
Yeah, so that's I feel a bit bad that I've been bombarding you so heavily because, or you want someone to feel with my pots. With my cups, I want them to hold it and not only enjoy the beverage but to enjoy holding that thing and eating or drinking out of that vessel. I like that it's irregular and that it's tactile. I want them to feel like it's a little part of the earth.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I want them to feel something. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to love it. I want them to.
So is your a kind of celebration? I'm trying to look for the connection between the surroundings and your performance. This sense of just celebrating life, just being you. I think of this pot that I'm holding right now. It's got Steph throughout it. Every single dimple is something that you've created. I'm guessing your performances have that same feeling of we're saying 100% Steph. And so the challenge to an audience is to sort of celebrate themselves. Would that be?
Yes, absolutely. So, here I am doing a podcast. I'm being very over the top. I can be restrained, I promise.
I don't believe you.
Because actually the quiet is definitely as powerful and more powerful than the noise. And perhaps that's something in ceramics that is easier for me to embrace. But when I am quiet on stage, you can feel a lot more. And I learn from the quiet people in my life, especially if we're doing an event at the zoo and one of our scientists is talking about the work on the coral reef and everyone just listens in, and it's partly the content, but it's partly the way that they're talking and what they're. So I'm not always full on, Chris.
So last, we're running out of time then. So we've heard lots of energy and excitement and creative. How do you generate quiet then? It sounds like it wouldn't be a natural state for you. How do you find moments or structures to give you quiet?
Yes, it is a natural state for me. In fact, as my poor long-suffering husband Nick says, there's like on the hot plate, it's either on high and boiling over and burning, or it's off. He's like, there is medium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I do have the quiet, and I guess on stage, the quiet is powerful because you do have this energy, feeling, thought, but you're not actually expressing it or letting it out. You're containing it, but there's still a sense of it. So probably
But my question, how do you find it? How do you generate moments or times when you're not on high? How do you get low?
On stage or in life?
In life.
Oh, well, I love my swimming. I love a little bit of, meditation is a marvelous thing, the old breathing, but I had to go to the Wim Hof one because I do generally tend towards the fast, furious and slightly insane.
So even the swimming is a kind of extreme version of swimming.
Yeah. No, I don't.
I should explain, Steph has confessed she's about to jump into the sea after this session, and it's midwinter here. It'll be a cold swim.
It'll be a cold swim. I've got my undies in my pocket.
So, Stefan, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time. Just one final word from you, advice to our listeners to be more creative, whether you have the opportunity to take a year off or, you carve out time within a normal.
Yeah. Creativity it's a tonic, it's a soother, it's a something out there of yourself that may or may not make a difference to someone else. It's your way of resonating, I guess, or creating ripples in the water. That I guess it's a way of two worlds colliding where they wouldn't in a normal natural sort of setting, and you just see what happens.
Steph, if you ever write a book, I think we've got the title, Ripples in the Water. I hope you'll write that someday.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a huge pleasure to listen to your story and get so much inspiration about creativity. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And I don't really like that bowl, but I'm glad you do. I'm going to have to appreciate it differently. I thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. It's been fantastic. Well, Chris, that was certainly high energy. You guys, a very different format this time with you two, which we don't normally do.
Steph was in the studio side by side with me, which does give a very different energy, and I could feel her excitement as well as listen to it and see it. And I think a challenge to all of us to kind of just embrace confidence, take risks, perhaps swim in the ocean as well.
And so, Chris, I think it's an observation. As you noted in the beginning, she's a personal friend of yours. But after we stopped recording, you mentioned that it was great to catch up, but to have conversations that you never had before. So I think it's really interesting that, this avenue of a podcast allows us to have discussions with all sorts of people, including our friends, about things that we wouldn't normally talk about in polite society at a barbecue.
It's right. I mean, maybe even those questions that you ask would get a joke as an answer, and a quick rather than a sort of thoughtful reply. And I agree with you. It's definitely I was going to say a bonus, but it's a core feature of put a microphone in front of people and they think more deeply and they answer questions much better. I recommend pretty much everybody should have a podcast. Even if you don't get the audience, it's worth having a podcast.
Yeah, and look, and I think the thing is that, say put a microphone in someone, but also, giving someone a microphone gives us permission to ask those questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, it's been great. If you've enjoyed the show, please follow us, hit the follow button. That's the best thing you can do. But you can also reach out to your friends and tell them about the show. Give us a rating, preferably 5 stars. In fact, only 5 stars, don't bother otherwise. And leave some comments wherever you can on your podcast platform.
And if you want to track down Stephanie's ceramics, Stephanie Hart Ceramics on all the main social media. We'll see you for next week's show.
See you then.